Hi, it's Kim here, and I'm here for my daily tip on how to get through physically, mentally, emotionally during lockdown and during any time actually. And what I want to talk about today is the natural healing response, or the natural healing cycle. And in particular, I'm sharing this in regards to why some people may be having really severe reactions. So I want to explain what goes on in the body and how it protects itself when it either perceives a real threat or a perceived threat to its life, and how the body has this natural healing mechanism, which often we see as something's going wrong. And even though it may be that what is happening is pretty intense and pretty severe, what is happening is that the body is trying to do its best to bring itself back to a state of homeostasis. So our body is programmed to maintain homeostasis, which means balance. For example, it's constantly maintaining a pH balance, and it's always just going up and down and trying to get the place in the middle where there is balance. And that's just for water, but it's for everything. So in the bigger picture, we have what is called a natural healing cycle. And I will put a picture up later after this video which will show things, or actually a link to another video with slides and pictures, so this will make more sense of what I'm talking about now. So if you can just imagine in your mind right now as I'm talking, our body has this natural healing ability and a natural healing cycle, where if some sort of stress is put on the body, and the body goes into stress, which means it's going into the sympathetic nervous system response, which is the stress, survival, I'm not safe response, then as soon as something happens to take ourselves out of that stress response, then the body will be triggered into what's called the healing response. And when we're triggered into the healing response, that is when the body is trying to repair any damage that has been done and to bring itself back into homeostasis. And when it does that, it goes into what's called the parasympathetic nervous system response, and that is more of a relaxation healing response. And then once it's gone through that cycle, so there are two cycles, one half of the cycle is the stress response and the other half of the cycle is the healing response. Once it's completed both cycles, and just think the yin-yang symbol in your mind as I'm saying this, one half is stress, one half is healing. Once it's completed that cycle, then it comes out and it comes back into harmony and into homeostasis, which is the same thing as saying it comes back into health. It restores its natural state of health. Now, to give a really simple example, which always, people always find easy to understand. Imagine that you're working really, really hard, and you're pushing yourself too hard, and you're working really long days because you've got a big project on, and you're working 16-hour days, say, for a month. And that is putting a lot of stress on the body because it's taking it out of its natural state of homeostasis or balance. And because the body is so resilient, it puts up with that it can put up with that for a considerable amount of time. But it's not healthy for the body because it's under a constant state of stress, which is why we call it stress. We're literally putting stress on the body, but it's coping, it's carrying on. So, we may feel tired, and we may feel stressed and impatient, and we're not eating properly, and we're working really hard. We have lots of emotions going all over the place, lots of worrying in our mind, but we make through, we carry on, we do our project, and then we keep going because we know that at the end of this project we have a holiday coming up. So bear in mind that in that month, during that month, your body is under stress, and in this healing cycle diagram, it's in the stress response. Then what happens is the project finishes and you know that tomorrow you're going on holiday. And so that is the trigger. It's called a healing trigger. That is the trigger for the body to know, oh, phew, that stress has gone now, and I can do the repair work that I need to do to repair the damage that was done during the stress cycle, during that period of stress. Because even if you don't think damage was done, damage has been done. Because it's not natural for us to be stressed and overworking and pushing ourselves dramatically over a period of time. It's just not what is called natural. So the body, in its innate, ineffable intelligence, says, right, my owner has stopped working now, and I know that he is going on holiday, and that she's going to rest, and she's not going to be working like that anymore. And that is my cue to turn on the healing response. So I'm going to go into the parasympathetic response now, and I'm going to repair whatever damage was done, even if that damage isn't seen by us. You know, there was stress put on the cells, the tissues, the organs, on the mind, on the emotions, and I'm going to repair. And the body will then take us through this healing, this part of the healing cycle, the healing curve, until it's done what it needs to do and it comes back out into homeostasis. Now, often when we go into this repair cycle, that's when we get symptoms. So, for example, people will go on holiday and literally they'll wake up on the first morning of their holiday and they'll feel really sick and they'll have the flu or something like that. That is the body healing itself. And I could say a lot more about viruses and how the body takes us out in order to ensure that we rest by opening itself up for a virus, but I won't go into that now. But just to say, the body is going to do whatever it needs to do to heal itself, and one of the main signs, if you like, of being in that healing response is that we get symptoms. Our body creates symptoms, it manifests symptoms, and we can feel really, really sick. So I'll give another example which will make more sense perhaps in terms of the jab. So some years ago I had an iron infusion because my iron was very low. And when you have an iron infusion, you have a choice of the dosage. It's either sort of a medium or a high dose of iron. And I went for the high dose. And so I had a huge amount of iron just all of a sudden just literally injected into my body. And the next morning I woke up and I felt horrendous. I immediately vomited and I spent the whole day in bed with a very high fever and feeling extremely sick. I literally couldn't move my head. I was just so sick. Now, if I hadn't have known or had the inkling that this was potentially a healing reaction to this huge influx of medication that was suddenly put into my body, I would have had to have called a doctor. I would have had to, I was so sick, I was really concerned. However, because of what I know and understand about the healing response, I had a pretty sure idea that it was a healing reaction to my body trying to cope with this sudden influx of a new substance into the body, that it was trying to restore balance. It was trying to deal with it, because it's not normal to go around putting foreign substances into our body like this, and it has to cope, right? Our body's not some sort of machine, made of metal and, inanimate parts. We're much more than that. So I decided to write it out that day and see how I went. And sure enough, the next day I woke up and it was as if nothing had happened. My body had done its healing, because it is an incredible self-healing machine. Although, you know, not a machine, but it is an amazing self-healing machine. And I woke up the next day and I felt absolutely fine. So my body had coped with this new foreign substance which had been put into it. So I will leave you to draw your own conclusions as to why so many people may be experiencing severe reactions. To my mind, it's just common sense. If a foreign substance is put into the body and the body has to deal with that substance and cope with it and somehow assimilate it and decide, well, what am I going to do with this? Where am I going to put this? It's going to have, or it's very likely to have, some sort of physical response. It's just natural and it's normal, although obviously we don't want to be experiencing that sort of thing, because it's very frightening and it puts a toll on the body, and as much as possible we want to avoid that sort of thing. However, a healing response is a natural response to the body dealing with either what we've done to ourselves, as in the first example that I shared, or something that, you know, is more external, that is put into us internally, that it then has to cope with. So I hope this is useful. I do recommend checking out the video I have on YouTube. I may have more than one on my YouTube channel on the healing response, because I talk about it showing slides and diagrams, and it's much easier perhaps to understand. So until my next healthy tip, I was thinking I might call them pink tips and wear my pink hat. Anyway, I hope that you're well wherever you are in the world.